Listen. It won't stop. It won't let up, and it just won't let go. My sister told me it's called tinnitus, something that older people have, or people that blast music in their ears doing their best to drown out the world, but I've just known it as my own personal hell. It's never reassuring to lose your hearing, especially when you've done nothing to prompt it. Yes, it's in one ear, but the stochastic imbalance in the eardrum during a calming morning cup of tea rips me away from any semblance of peace. And it's here. Of course, it is here that it is the worst. The most startling, the most obnoxious, the least comforting. Only here. Where am I, you ask? Where am I? I am stuck. Inside. In my house, to be specific. In the same house I've lived in for 18 years, in the very same annoyingly bright pink room I grew up in, with the same balloon trim that my dad hated putting up so much that he punched our bathroom wall in just to get his aggression out. Next to neighbors I barely know. On a street that is disconnected from the neighborhood, in a neighborhood that is disconnected from itself, laden with concrete for the sole purpose of leaving the neighborhood and entering into a city cluttered with uninspired government buildings, sewage-smelling lakes, demoralizing college preparatory high schools, and a host of unwanted memories. A city I purposefully left. Except now that there is a global pandemic, there is no place left for me to be. St. Paul, Minnesota. The Midwest. Home. Well, why shouldn't it be? I've lived here all my life. That should be enough, right? Right? But when I think of Occidental, well, no. When I think of Los Angeles, it's California. When I think of California, I can breathe past the droning, where valleys, hope, and growth color my thoughts. It's the fresh Californian air, not that Los Angeles smog, but the desert breeze, that dry wind that could revive me. It's the heat of the startling Californian sunlight that could shock my body out of its cool and listless state. It is the whisper of family that awakens my spirit and calls out to something greater, some place that holds those answers, somewhere I've never been that lays dormant in my soul. I need help. Like a licensed therapist, probably. Thinking of places unknown to me that could heal me, or even mend my relationship with this lifeless state. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Please stand. Before we move together, begin to think about what land means to you. Please share your thoughts with your neighbor as we walk. What memories or stories come up when you think of land and your relationship to it? Okay, that's enough. Let's go.
I have heard all about love land and all of its many charms, but I know I'll never get to love land unless I'm wrapped up in your arms. Got to take me with you, baby. Please take me with you. How I love to walk down that golden street, hand in hand with you, where all the lovers meet. Oh, I'd love to go to Love Land with you, pretty baby, 'cause my love is true. I swear I do. I have heard all about Love Land and all of its useful harm, where loneliness just can't enter, and happiness is the answer. Got to take me with you, baby. Got to take me with you.
Wait here. Thank you. I have a story for you. A story of creation, of a land unknown to you, perhaps. And it is a land far greater than its name. It is the land that sustained life for your people and mine, the Yokut. It began a long, long, long time ago, before any human had placed their feet on the land known as the Americas. There was a flood, a great flood. The world was silent and covered in the still reflection of greenish-gray waters, with mud buried below and bright blue sky high up above. Then one day, the sky broke the silence and released an enormous eagle with a small crow riding on its back, gliding amidst the clouds. They were in search for a place to land. Around and around Eagle flew until it found a tree stump projecting from the greenish-gray waters. And there, they made home. But the stump quickly became confining after endless days of soaring above the open sea in search for home. Eagle knew something had to be done. Then one morning, much to their surprise, they found a small teal duck gliding amidst their stump. They noticed that sometimes when duck swam down and caught fish from the bottom of the sea, it would catch a fish, but mainly globs of mud from the bottom of the sea. Ding! Clever idea sparked in Eagle's mind. The next day, Eagle and Crow went out to catch a fish and placed it on the edge of their stump for duck only when duck had caught more mud in its beak than fish. Gradually, duck learned that the fish was for him in exchange for mud. Then on they went. Every time duck swam down and caught more mud in its beak than fish, he would be fed a fresh fish, and then eagle and crow would brush the mud from duck's bill and body with their wings. They agreed to share the mud equally, with eagle dumping his share on one side of the stump and crow dumping his on the other. Little by little, they watched as the waters around their stump grew shallower and shallower as their mud piles grew higher and higher. Eventually, their piles grew high enough to break the surface of the water and become islands. Slowly, these islands grew tall enough to become mountains. All the while, faithful duck would keep up his work, and eagle and crow would feed him fresh fish and brush the mud from his body to create a new world. One in which eagle and crow agreed to share equally. The San Joaquin Valley. That is where we are. Now, as to the promise of equal sharing, crow became greedy, stealing mud from eagle's pile. Eagle flew high up above and noticed that crow was taking more than his fair share. Eagle then quietly went out and caught 2 fish for duck so that he could build his pile up to the size it was and beyond. So, as you can see, to the east, we have eagle's mud pile, which grew to be the great Sierra Nevada. And to the west, just beyond this great valley, lies crow's not as large, but just as loved mud pile, the coastal ranges. And here, this is where the waters were. This is where life began and grew, where the seeds, the acorns, the roots, fruits, and animals flourished. My people did not farm because the land gave us all that we needed naturally. It took work, yes, and gratitude to make Mother Earth's gifts accessible to us. Do not misunderstand that. And it took patience to wait for a freely given gift. But it was in that patience and care and gratitude that we, my people, found a reciprocity with the land given and the gifts received. I am not sure what stories fuel people's relationship with land today, if there are any. To me, if there are stories, they're not ones of nourishment, of growth. It seems to me that we have forgotten to thank eagle, crow, and duck. It seems that we have forgotten the stories that lie within each of us. This story is Tachiyoka, my tribe. The story lies in me. Noa, if you listen, you'll begin to remember the stories that lie in you too. Wait here and follow when she beckons you. Rosa was born on November 30th, 1945 in Fresno. I was born on April 22nd, 1929 in Watonga, Oklahoma, Indian reservation located in Blaine County. My father's name is Esau Jackson Trotter, and my mother's full name is Etta Mae Green Trotter. The work in Oklahoma was cotton. My father did other jobs, selling ice and driving tractors, but the money was in the little cotton field my grandfather owned. And there wasn't much, if any, extra money lying around, so me and my other siblings, we had to get jobs, we grew our own food, and really made do with whatever we made for ourselves. But that wasn't bound to last. The stock market crashed in '29, the year I was born. And even though the cotton failed us in Watonga, Dad knew of a place that was rich, where the fields were rich, and where we could keep on living. We left Oklahoma in what would be called a van nowadays. We left Oklahoma, and Dad packed us some stuff and the different things we could bring in there, and put mattresses on top of that with sheets and so on, and made a bed. We left in the winter after having Christmas with Grandpa's days. We left El Reno in the winter and got snowbound in Shamrock, Texas, and had to stay at a motel. Then we went on to Phoenix, and when we got to Phoenix, January had already come. And we had to stay there for about 3 weeks. Dad said it was just too dangerous for us to drive any further. So he sold some other things, left some things with relatives in Phoenix, and shipped the rest to California. We came on to Bakersfield on the train. Cecil was born next, after Christine had been the baby of the family for a while. His birthday was March 21st, 1943. He was the baby of the family when we were in Bakersfield, and we left Bakersfield by the time school ended. Brother Jack Piero was the one to move us to Fresno. The Lord had showed him in a dream that he would have to move Dad to Fresno. When we got to Bakersfield, we were all enjoying ourselves because we had never been around a lot of young people. I cried and cried when we got to Bakersfield because there were no young people. We got to Bakersfield in the summer of 1943. We lived out on what would be called Snake Road. It's named something else now. No children were born into the family. Cecil was learning to walk, and his bright smile made the journey that much easier for all of us. Little Cecil was outstanding to be 2 years old. Clara, Margaret, and Liz went to school out on the place where the Church of God used to have worship services out on Kings Canyon. And I would drive them to school. And Cecil asked to go along with me. So I brought him with me when I brought them to school. Mother had to go out to town to see about some business at the welfare office, and Dad was at home. I came home, and Cecil must have gone down into the kitchen. And I heard him cough. And I said, "Oh my goodness, what did Cecil get into?" Margaret had started a fire in the cook stove that morning and left some kerosene in the can there. I picked him up, grabbed him, and I could smell the kerosene. Dad grabbed him, put him on his lap and started praying while all of us were screaming and crying, begging God to forgive us if we had done anything wrong. When we got up from praying, I could still hear him breathe. It was shorter breaths, but he was still breathing. But Dad said, he's doing what all of us are going to have to do. He was a really bright child. Cecil Clarence was his name. Later, there was a lady named Sister Rucker who lived out on Snake Road and helped prepare the funeral for Cecil. She lived in one of the nicest houses, and we moved in there and rented from her. Had gas, water. Mother then gave birth to a little girl. Please take a seat. I'm sure you're tired. Take a seat at one of the benches. Sit at one of the benches, that'll be really nice. Thank you. What land were we working on? Well, there were and still are farmers in Fresno who own land and basically, I don't know if this matters or not, but the majority of farmers in Fresno at the time were Armenian. And I'm sure there were other nationalities, but I know that that was the majority then. We didn't own any of the land. We were just hired to work the land. Probably as soon as I started school, I began working in the fields. And you know, you didn't work by yourself, you worked as a helper. I worked in cotton and I worked in grapes. Picking cotton was gruesome because it was like in the dead of winter, very, very cold. And you could pick, well, you know, you had to pick $3 for, no, $3 for every 100 pounds of cotton you picked. And that was a lot of cotton because cotton is very light. And so you had to pick, you could work as a child and well, I would work all day long just to make $3. Because, you know, that's about all I could do, maybe 100 pounds or more. Whereas my father or your grandmother, they could do like 300 or 400 pounds a day. Yes, I would say I was about 12 or 13 when we stopped the cotton picking because, well, the machines came and they started picking cotton. Well, we also stopped the cotton picking because there were different people, kind of foreign, more Hispanic foreign people, but the machines came and that was one of the reasons we stopped picking cotton. But for grapes, that lasted all the way I was in high school until I graduated. Because me and my sister Christine, we basically worked as a pair and we would pick grapes to make money for our clothes, our school clothes. Picking grapes, that wasn't as bad. It wasn't, you know, as gruesome, but it was still in like the dead heat of summer, like 90 something, 100 degrees. And you know what we did was race. So what that meant was you would cut the grapes into it like a box, and then you would spread the grapes on a tray, and you would place the tray out into the sun and make raisins. Yeah, wow, it's right. And you know, they would pay like 10 to 12 cents a tray. So what that meant was if you were good at it, you could maybe do 100, 120 trays a day. So, you know, it was better money than picking cotton. But it was still hard work because when you cut the grapes, you could cut your hands, and where you place the tray, you had to bend down, you know, and that was hard on your back. And the rows where you place the trays, there would be lots of dirt, and it would be, you know, dusty. You could get allergies and stuff, pesticides running up your nose. And depending on the field you were in, there would be insects everywhere that, you know, you just did not want to run into, you know, black widows or wasps, or, you know, you would hear, you know, animals that roam in field. But the nice thing about grapes, like I was telling Ron, you could eat them. You know, you were taking a chance because they were sprayed with stuff, but still, we would eat them. Yeah. Doing grapes wasn't that bad. You know, you could find some enjoyment in it. You know, if you got tired, you could start throwing grapes, you know. You could run up and down the fields, throw grapes, see if you could beat somebody or whatever. But other than that, it was pretty gruesome. Yeah. You know, being outside is nice and all, but is there anything about it that you just cannot stand, you know? For me, it's the insects. I don't know where they're coming from. But, you know, is there anything about nature that you just cannot deal with? I don't know. Talk amongst yourselves, okay?
Let me tell you about a place somewhere up a New York way where the people are so gay, twisting the night away. Here they have a lot of fun, putting trouble on the run. Man, you find the old and young, twisting the night away. They're twisting, twisting. Everybody's feeling great. They're twisting, twisting. They're twisting the night away. Here's a man in evening clothes. How he got here, I don't know, but man, you ought to see him go, twisting the night away. He's dancing with the chicken slacks. She's moving up and back. Oh man, there ain't nothing like twisting the night away. They're twisting, twisting. Everybody's feeling great. They're twisting, twisting. They're twisting the night. Let's twist a while. Twisting the night away. Here's a fella in blue jeans dancing with the older queen who's dolled up in her diamond rings and twisting the night away. Man, you ought to see her go, twisting to the rock and roll. Here you find a young...
There we go. Let's circle around. Y'all are doing real well. Why don't y'all come over here? Let's have you guys in the circle. Come on. Yeah. Okay. There we go. This is really the way it was. At the age of 5, I started working in the cotton field with Aunt Rosie, who was the youngest of my aunts, and all the way up to my mother, who was the oldest. And we would work out there because it was the family business to make money for your clothes, for your food. Well, when my mother sent me 120 miles south from Stockton to Fresno to do watermelons, her only instruction was, Ronnie, we need the money. You gotta be a man, she said. Go to the first field that a bus arrives downtown, get on it, and send all the money home. Well, the first day I was there, the very first morning, I was standing up along the wall like day workers do, you know, in the big cities. They stand along the wall and wait for employees to drive up, you know, in their pickups or whatever. Then they start picking out people from along the wall. You want to work today? Yeah, I want to work. And they get into their pickups. They may never have seen this man in their life, but that's how it happened to me. Big man. He was like 6'6", big black man, real dark, shaved head. He's walking along the wall, looking at all of us. And he stops in front of me. And I'm looking up at him. And he says his words were, "Hey, little brother, you ever pitched melons before?" And I look up at him, and I say, "No." "You want to learn?" "Yeah." And he points across the street, right past the four-way intersection, and says, "See that station wagon over there? Go get in it." And see, this man could have been anybody. But my mother's instructions were in the back of my mind. So I went across the street, across the intersection, and went up to the car, and in it were several men. Okay, I get in. And immediately this group of guys start cussing me. "You little so-and-so." They start calling me all kinds of words, you know, color words, profane words, foul words. "Get your so-and-so out here. You can't pitch no melons. You don't have anybody at home to feed. You blind little low." Well, at the time, I had really poor vision, and I had to wear glasses, a trotter trait. Anyway, I was sitting in there being screamed at, yelled at by, you know, and I was getting kind of scared because these are grown men. I'm 16. These are grown men. But I was more afraid of that big man, because I was thinking, if I get out of here, what will he do? Plus, Mother told me to work. Because if I didn't, well, we would have lost the house a year earlier than we eventually did. And I wouldn't have been able to play on my senior year basketball championship team. So I kind of scrunched down and stayed there. And then the big man started walking across the street and went up to the car door, and as soon as he opened the car door, silence. Everybody that was hollering at me, nothing. When we get out there, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never been in a melon field before in my life. But I stepped out of the car. I'll never forget this. I stepped out of the car. You could see the watermelon field as far as the eye could see. It disappeared beyond the horizon. That's how big it was. You see, in the melon field, there are rows. And there's a dirt road between a certain number of watermelon-laden rows. And how it worked was, there would be 8 pitchers, and in front of us would be 7 cutters. You know, people expert at looking at a melon to see if it's ready to be harvested. Well, as the cutters proceeded above us, the pitchers would pitch the melon to each other. We would be lined up in rows, and the outside road from the dirt road, you know, where the truck is, the outside road would have the easiest job. Because he would just pitch his one roll of melons as we went up the field. If you're the seventh guy, okay, you had the eighth guy, he would throw you his melon, you catch it, you throw it, you bend down, you grab your melon, you throw it, you'd have the second easiest job. Well, there was this young guy, maybe 20, 21, not much older than me. And he just flat out said, N-word, you little, I'ma make you wide-eyed. And I turned and I looked at him and I said, I'ma make you wide-eyed. I didn't know what I was saying. But what he was saying was he was gonna work next to me all day and make me collapse. Make me collapse from how hard he was gonna work me. Make me know that I couldn't pitch no melon. Lunchtime. He's sitting underneath a tree. He couldn't work anymore. I worked him off his feet. It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun to be out there, but it was bonding. You know, when you're out there and you hear the old people singing. Well, nowadays, young people, especially young black people, don't really like to hear spiritual songs or songs sung in the old black way, and they have no idea about the codes they were addressing, like Africans communicated with drums and the songs and words. They have no idea about that. But when the old people sang, I'm getting goosebumps now remembering. The old people sung while we worked. The old man would sing songs like, there's one song that runs through my mind. I'll be so glad when the sun goes down. When the sun goes down, I'll be so glad when the sun goes down. When the sun goes down, I ain't all that sleepy, but I wanna lie down. I wanna lie down. I ain't all that sleepy, but I wanna lie down. I wanna lie down. I wanna lie down. I ain't all that sleepy, but I wanna lie down. Oh, this world is not matter, baby. I can't see. Oh, what's it gotta matter, baby? I can't see. You know the silent driver boat. He was down on me. No silent driver boat. He was down on me. Yes, drop that corner land. Ain't got you on mine. Yes, drop that corner land. Ain't got you on mine. Oh, what's the worry when the sun goes down? When the sun goes down, oh, you'll never be worried when the sun goes down. When the sun goes down. Well, that crew chief, the big black man, 6'6", with his pistol on his side, his .38, he brought me to a nightclub because I agreed to work with him. I was 16, I didn't belong in a nightclub. But anyway, he said, come with me. So I went with him. And inside, it was like something from TV, you know, smoke down from the ceilings, stinking in there, guys yelling at each other, people at the bar drinking, you know, tables, gambling and stuff. And you know, these are all black men. This is Chinatown, the black part of Fresno. And then he starts yelling. Hey! Hey! He just keeps on yelling. And eventually it gets quiet. And then he turns and he points at me and says, "This is my pony. Don't nobody mess with him." What he was saying was, he had hired me, and nobody was to hire me away. And he, at the time, I didn't know this, but he had a reputation. He would shoot anybody away with his shotgun if they messed with him. He was one of the toughest crew chiefs out there. I made a lot of money with him. And I sent it all home. I think I see Aunt Rosa over there. You know who I'm talking about, the one throwing the grapes? Follow me. Come over here. Keep on going, come on. Thank you for your patience. Uncovering forgotten memories is never a seamless process. Yeah, most of us stayed in Fresno. Yeah, mostly everybody did, except my older sister, Ron's mother. She ventured out first and went to Stockton, California, about 120 miles north of Fresno. I remember the first time I came back home from Washington, D.C., when I had first left Fresno. And there were no air terminals. You know, the ones that you see everywhere, the real fancy air terminals. There wasn't an air terminal at all. You just had to walk out to the plane. You remember. You had to walk out to the plane. You know, and some airports still do that, you know, if it's a small plane. Anyway, you had to walk out there with no shelter or whatever. So anyway, when I first came back home and I had to do that, I was thinking to myself, this is a small town. You know, it just dawned on me. I come from a real small town. I didn't really live in D.C. I lived in Virginia, which was across the river from D.C. It was just more like a city. I don't know. Just people wanted to go places. They were moving, anxious to get places. In Fresno, it was just, okay, we're here. Let's do this. But there was no rush. No, it didn't really bother me. It didn't bother me because, well, I was home, you know? It was still home. Fresno, that's my heart. You know, my mother carried me in the womb there. To this day, hot weather does not affect me. In fact, I like it. And I think it's because she carried me during some of the hottest days. You know, Fresno gets brutally hot. I like heat. I'm a firm believer in the Bible and how God addressed the role of mankind, which is to rule over the world, to rule the animal world over the animal world, and to take care of the world and its inhabitants. Just being black being black in America, being black in South America, being black in Europe, being black in Africa, being black in Greenland, being black in Australia, being black in Asia, no matter where you are, if you are black, and this is my opinion, if you are black, you are never going to be to the same degree of free as most others. I've had people come up to me before and ask, how are you able to get that car? And they go behind my back, these are co-workers. Is Ron a drug dealer? I was a minister and a pastor. I had one of my soccer players come up to me and ask, Coach, are you rich? She had no idea that the car I had bought it for $1. But because I was driving a Jaguar XJ6, my wife and I bought it from her sister for $1 because we were caregivers for their parents. Me and Eunice, we took care of them until the time they died. And, you know, our SUV, the shocks were rough. It was riding rough. And one of Eunice's sisters had an XJ6. And she said, why don't y'all take my car? And then Mom and Dad could be more comfortable. So we bought it for $1. But because I'm black and I'm driving that, immediately it's assumed, you must be rich. I was poor. But that's how it looked upon. You know, on jobs I've held, well, I'm kind of digressing now. But what I'm trying to say is when you get to a point of responsibility, and it's a major responsibility, kind of like President Barack Obama. Once you get there, then the plans are set. Okay, let's bring them down. So that's why I believe blacks are not afforded the full ability to take care of mankind, of others, of the animal world maybe. I mean, plant world. You hear anything for climate change about, you hear any black voices in that argument? Not really. And you don't hear those voices because, well, our issues are kind of, a little bit more pressing right now. You know what I mean? But that's how I feel about it. Yeah, we're supposed to be ruling of mankind overall, but it's just not there. We're resented more often than really appreciated, competed against more often than accepted, and it's sad. It really is. That's my opinion, Noah. That's just one man's opinion. Noah, I'm not really a good outside person, but I'll tell you one thing I've done over the pandemic. I started planting little plants on my patio, little vegetable plants like romaine lettuce, tomatoes, carrots, and broccoli. Yeah, they aren't doing so well. But you know what I've learned? It's fun to watch things grow. You know what I mean? You put a seed in the pot, in the ground, and you watch it come up. And it's a good thing if you keep it alive. Something you can grow and nourish yourself with. And you can eat it if you want to, but I haven't been able to make myself eat anything that I've grown. But it's just the beauty of it. And I'm not really an animal person. For me, that's way too much care that I want to put into, for one thing, but I like the idea that plants are stationary. And they're pretty. They're beautiful. They're nice to look at. I play old man soccer, over 70 soccer, and I like to run, you know. God bless greens and trotters. I mean, Grandpa and Grandma passed down some athleticism. It showed itself in athletics, it showed itself in singing, it showed itself in dancing. All our muscles get used. So anyway, when I was in Palo Alto last year and hurt myself during a soccer competition, you know, hurt my leg real bad. And I was asked to be in the soccer competition in Milwaukee last summer. I was excited about it, but I knew I had to be fully healed. So, when I came on to Memphis, Tennessee, Aunt Rosa and I visited a college friend of mine. And in her backyard, she had set up something she called her healing garden. The setup was this extensive property, you know, with tall pines and a compost unit in the corner and, you know, plants all around. 3 magnolia trees. You know magnolias, they stay green all year long and they just a big old shield. And when you listen, it's quiet. And when you stand there and you look up, you know, it's kind of a majestic sight to see a tree so tall. And then the little plants, you know, the nice pretty plants all around the fence, and there was a grassy area. And that's where I did my workouts to get my legs strong. And it was a 15-yard stretch, and usually for a soccer competition, you would do 100, 120-yard sprints, you know, to work your way up. But I only had 15 yards to work with. But there was something about it, doing those 15-yard sprints back and forth. By the time I got to Milwaukee, I was in top shape. I really benefited. And there was something about that peaceful atmosphere there. I don't know, maybe I just wanted to be at peace in there. Maybe it was just that particular setting, that particular place. And I think that can be recreated. That's my opinion. That's my opinion, too. You cannot care for the land until you know how you're connected to it. I ask you to stay silent as we leave. And remember the stories you've been told. Let them wash over you and nourish you. Change cannot come without repetition and reflection. In the end, Noa, it is what you do with these stories that matters. Be careful. Watch your step. There is a pole projecting from the ground. Don't trip. If you are able to, sit. If you are not, stand. If you are willing, place your hands on the ground. Ground yourself into the earth. And now, with all of your intention, listen. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. There will be a treat inside of the tent for everyone who's here. Hint, we all had a hand in it. Okay. Let's go inside.
Home again, home again. One day I know I feel home again. Wrong again, wrong again. One day I know I feel strong again. I lift my head. Many times I've been told all this talk will make you old. So I'll close my eyes, look behind, moving on, moving on. So I'll close my eyes, look behind, moving on. Lost again, lost again. One day I know our paths will cross again. Smile again, smile again. One day I hope to make you smile again, and I won't hide. Many times I've been told, speaking mind, just be bold. So I'll close my eyes, will look behind, moving on, moving on. So I'll close my eyes, and the tears will clear. Then I'd feel no fear. Then I'd feel no way. My paths will be made straight. Home again, home again. One day I know I feel home again. Wrong again, wrong again. One day I know I feel strong again. I lift my head. Many times I've been told all this talk will make you old. So I'll close my eyes, look behind, moving on, moving on. So I'll close